right, welcome back into the First and 30 football show. Today, I want to talk about the Miami Dolphins and just kind of an overlook of the team, but this was sparked by the news that came out this morning that the team is looking to move on from cornerback Jalen Ramsey. There's been the reports on and off for months now about Tyreek Hill being traded from this team. And this is a team that missed the playoffs last year, and I feel is just completely trending in the wrong direction. And a lot of it's their own doing. And I know Dolphins fans, this is going to be kind of a hit piece on you guys. You're going to be mad at me, but I've done nothing but told the truth. A year ago at this time, I said that the Dolphins would finish 8-9 and miss the playoffs. I was called every name under the book that you want to associate with stupid and told it wasn't going to happen. And then it happened. And I'm telling you right now, the Dolphins will not be in the playoffs again this upcoming season. This is an organization that continues to shoot itself in the foot and continues to fail. Over the last 3 years, what have they done? Paid Tua Tagovailoa top of the market money, which Tua has health concerns already. I'm not even for sure that he's going to be on the field, and when he's not on the field, the offense simply can't run at all. And even when he is on the field, in the big time games, in the big time moments, he chokes. Every time, prime time versus the Buffalo Bills, you could bet Tua Tagovailoa 2+ interceptions, and it hits whether he makes it out of the first half or not. Number two, the team opted to give additional money to Tyreek Hill and Jalen Ramsey last offseason and let Christian Wilkins walk. The defensive line became a problem, and now, a year later, the team is looking to move off of both players. And I don't even think it's going to be possible to move off of Tyreek Hill, truthfully. I'm not sure there's a team desperate enough to bring him in at this point in time. And then the team traded away their first round pick in 2023 for Bradley Chubb, who hasn't been a high leverage impact player on this team. You lose Javon Holland in free agency. Things are going south for Miami. A tampering scandal with Tom Brady that cost him a first round pick. It has been bad move after bad move after bad move for the Miami Dolphins organization. You know, I coined them to the Dallas Cowboys of the AFC a year ago, but they may have surpassed them in terms of terribly run. This is bad. The Tyreek Hill trade was a failure. They didn't win one playoff game since Tyreek Hill has been there, and that trend isn't changing. They are poorly run. Now, can they rebuild? I think it's possible. There are pieces on this Dolphins team that I do think are players to be happy about going forward. I do think Jalen Waddle has what it takes to be a wide receiver one in this league. I do think Devon Achane is a nice piece. I do think they can rebuild that offensive line. They do have the 13th pick in this year's draft. Chop Robinson, he wasn't lights out his first year, but he had some impressive showings. This team does have some young talent that I think it's okay to believe in. And Mike McDaniel, I'm not sold on him as a head coach yet, but you can't deny as a schemer, as an offensive coordinator, he's a hit. As a head coach, I don't know if he can manage a locker room. And it hasn't shown that way, but he's also working with some interesting personalities. Let's start with the Jalen Ramsey news that came out today. Jalen Ramsey potentially could be moved. And I think that this is a move that will happen. I think it's a move that will happen before the draft. I got to pull up Jalen Ramsey's contract here. Jalen Ramsey, though, I believe is a tradable asset. Jalen Ramsey going into this year, he still has 4 years left on his deal. So you're not going to get a lot back for him. A cap hit this year, but there's a potential out after this year. So it looks like we're really looking at a 1 year rental, and then the team will probably move off from him. There'll probably be a restructure, but he's at least a $16.6 million cap hit this year. I'd imagine that a team isn't going to continue on with the 3 years left on the deal, 25, 26, $36 million cap hit. But Jalen Ramsey's a movable piece. Jalen Ramsey is still a Pro Bowl level corner. There's a lot of teams that could use one. I think it's easy to ship him off to a contending team. Certainly, Kansas City would be interested as they have cornerback 2 issues. Philadelphia would be interested as they lost Darius Slay and Isaiah Rodgers this offseason. All reports showed that they want Cooper DeJean to stay as a slot corner. I think you could get Baltimore to bring him in. I think you could convince a Minnesota to bring him in. Him and Brian Flores. I don't know what that relationship specifically is like. Could you get a Denver? Probably not. Their defense is pretty set, but they do have some money to play with. So I think that you'd have no problem finding a home for Jalen Ramsey, but I think the return isn't going to be as high as you think it is, but I think you can get off the money. And Tyreek Hill, I just don't see it. And when we get to Tyreek Hill's contract, this is an interesting look of things. Again, a potential out after this year, but a $28 million cap hit this season, and it would be $51 million next year. So at the end of the day, I don't think Tyreek Hill is a movable asset. The off the field issues, the questions on how much he actually contributes to winning. Like I said, since the Dolphins traded for Tyreek Hill, have they really improved? They've made the playoffs a couple times, but they haven't won a playoff game since acquiring Tyreek Hill. You traded for a guy like Tyreek, who at the time was widely considered a top 5 wide receiver in football, to be a needle mover, and he got you into the playoffs, but he couldn't get you to be a competitive playoff team, to be in actual Super Bowl conversations. It just wasn't there. So the trade's been a failure. When you look at what Kansas City got back, Trent McDuffie and a slew of other picks, that was a fleece. Miami's just been poorly run. And I think they'd be best served to blow it up. I think you're almost just better off getting Tyreek Hill out of the locker room, truthfully. Whether, I don't know what you can get for him, but I'm sure there's some contending team that thinks they could fix him and could pay him the money for, a 4th, a 5th, a 6th round pick. Can you ship him off to Carolina? Right? Like, get Bryce Young a weapon. They're not paying Bryce yet. I'm sure you could convince one of those teams to take him on. But if I'm Miami, I'm tearing it all down. You're not going to be able to move off of Tua at this point, but I'm building the foundation from scratch. And I think Houston is doing a move like this that a lot of people disagree with. But man, it's not all what you see on Madden or on paper. You got to get good personalities. And Tyreek Hill is not a good personality for a locker room. Let's call a spade a spade. There's character issues there. Is that the guy you want forming the way Jalen Waddle looks at your organization? Is that the guy you want forming other rookie wide receivers? Change up this offense. Jonnu Smith just had a Pro Bowl season. Jalen Waddle, you drafted him to be a wide receiver 1. He could still be that A-chain. There's enough weapons there. Wide receivers are a dime a dozen. You could figure that out. You could draft a guy in the 3rd round that could be your wide receiver 2. Not a problem. The defense needs work, but you have the 13th pick. I just did a mock draft and mocked the Dolphins' Will Johnson. So while I think the current day is rainy days, and it's been rainy days in Miami for the last 3 years, that doesn't mean that they can't change the weather going forward. They could certainly put themselves on a better path going forward. But at the end of the day, you have to be able to look at yourself in the mirror. We made a mistake, and take your medicine. I would go into full rebuild. Now, it's not going to be complete rebuild because you do already have some talent that is decent. You keep Bradley Chubb and Chop Robinson as your defensive edge rushers. You keep Tua running the offense because at the end of the day, while I don't think Tua's worth the contract you gave him, it's not like Tua completely sucks. He's a good player, a top 20 quarterback in this league, a starter. A-Chain, Waddle, Jonnu Smith, there's weapons. You could be competitive. But at the end of the day, this year, take the medicine, win 5 or 6 games, and get another top 15 pick next year. And then, and maybe then, you'll be ready to compete. But don't try and hold on to this window that doesn't exist. The team isn't competing with Buffalo. Not in that division. Sorry. Not against Josh Allen. Sorry. Drake May and the Patriots, they're coming. They've already passed you. The Jets, you're probably still better than the Jets. But 3rd in the division feels like the ceiling for Miami this year, in my opinion. And I don't think you're making the playoffs in an AFC that has the Bengals, the Ravens, the Steelers, who are always competitive, Kansas City, the Chargers, Houston, Tennessee's about to draft Cam Ward, Denver, the Raiders now. Take your medicine. Be a bad football team this year. Let the new offense find its rhythm. Let Devon Achane and Jalen Waddle be stars of the offense and not sharing, catches and touches with Tyreek Hill. Get that toxicity out of the locker room. Get what you can for Jalen Ramsey if he wants to go. Draft Will Johnson. Draft Jahdae Barron. Bring in a new regime on defense. Get younger. Give your team and fan base something to be excited about. But if you desperately cling on to what you have and say this is the year, you're just delaying the inevitable. And I know it hurts, but this isn't a winning formula for Miami. They need to take their medicine. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below.